Hey there everyone, in today's video we will be exploring an interesting trend that we have been observing in the world of the UFC. Have you noticed that more and more champions in this league have significant experience in mixed martial arts? How did it come about, and what is their advantage over wrestlers and strikers? For many years there was a common belief, even among professional athletes, that MMA is a show where boxers compete against wrestlers. Many believe that there couldn't be a recognized discipline like MMA because it involves blending so many different styles and disciplines. However, today, those statements sound just absurd because in top leagues like the UFC, Bellator, etc., we see athletes who have dedicated themselves exclusively to MMA now becoming champions. So how did this turn of events happen? MMA was really a show competition of athletes from different martial arts. But the UFC changed everything, and in this video we will attempt to delve into the reasons and the factors that have led to the rise in the number of MMA champions in the UFC. So let's begin our exploration of this fascinating phenomenon in the world of MMA and the UFC. Before we kick off the video, I just want to ask you guys, please do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We greatly appreciate it, so thank you in advance. In 648 BC, ancient Greeks introduced a combat discipline called pancration into the program of the Olympic Games. It was a combination of Greek wrestling, boxing, and bare-knuckle fighting, and can be considered as the precursor to modern MMA. The rules were similar to the early editions of UFC rules. There were no weight categories or time limits, and fighters were allowed to strike with any part of their bodies except for the eyes. After pancration, gladiatorial fights took the spotlight, and unregulated matches between two athletes without equipment or rules gradually faded away. However, all of that was centuries ago. MMA found new life in the mid-1960s when shoot wrestling, another precursor to MMA, gained popularity in Japan. The sport combined realistic wrestling techniques with full contact strikes. Now, in the wake of the growing interest of the audience, famous wrestlers and shoot wrestlers of that era began to challenge athletes representing classical martial arts. For example, Muhammad Ali, who fought with the Japanese shooter Antonio Inoki. However, the true turning point came on November 12, 1993. On this day, the first UFC tournament took place, where 8 fighters from different martial art disciplines fought each other. The winner was Royce Gracie, who achieved victories over Jimerson, Shamrock, and Gordeau, finishing each fight with a submission hold. In the subsequent UFC tournaments, wrestlers and grapplers dominated, such as Oleg Toktarov, Royce Gracie, Don Frye, Mark Coleman, and Dan Severn. These fighters were known for their one-dimensional specialization, but still managed to defeat their opponents. The series of wrestling victories in the UFC was interrupted by Maurice Smith when he fought against Mark Coleman. This fight demonstrated that having boxing and kickboxing techniques can bring success even against orthodox and one-dimensional wrestlers like Coleman. Big muscles and the use of steroids do not always guarantee victory in the heavyweight division. Sometimes they only exhaust and weaken the fighters. As a result, changes occurred in the heavyweight division, where champions were replacing each other. Strikers were replacing wrestlers, and wrestlers were replacing strikers. Special attention was drawn to Randy Couture, a very unique fighter of his era. He showcased the importance of clinching in MMA and utilized techniques from Greco-Roman wrestling as well as elements of dirty boxing. Couture's example is illustrative. In the early years of MMA, champions were not only the most skilled or physically strong fighters, but also those who possessed a unique style and approach. With time, champions progressed in unfamiliar directions and versatile fighters emerged in the league. In the 2000s, MMA witnessed a skills race. Champions from different styles were constantly changing, but the uniqueness of each fighter compelled contenders to develop their lacking skills. For instance, the arrival of Brock Lesnar, a fighter with incredible power, made it impossible for other traditional wrestlers to claim championships without sufficient strength and striking. Champions struggled without wrestling skills. However, Cain Velasquez, a well-rounded fighter with a solid wrestling foundation, impressive physical attributes, and lightning-fast striking, easily defeated Lesnar. Punches and kicks. St. Pierre added double-leg takedowns from his karate stance, which proved highly effective. Silva and Aldo employed their Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills to defend against takedowns and create danger on the ground. Among them, Demetrius Johnson stood out. While he had a wrestling base, he developed his striking to the point where he delivered the best knockout of the year. Johnson is a unique athlete who, through his fighting intelligence and fanatical approach to training, became one of the first true versatile fighters. His ability to blend styles and choose the appropriate tools for each opponent made him one of the greatest fighters. The late 2010s witnessed the dominance of wrestlers, but not traditional grapplers without striking skills, but rather technical wrestler-grapplers who combined freestyle wrestling, judo, sambo, or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with proficient striking. This primarily applies to the AKA Gym and their frontrunners, Daniel Cormier, who became a champ, and the lightweight Khabib Nurmagomedov. But in MMA, there is a simplified, fairly accurate observation. Wrestlers beat strikers, strikers beat hybrids, and hybrids beat wrestlers. With the arrival of new school wrestlers, new school hybrids also emerged and then took away their titles. For example, Leon Edwards claimed the belt from striker wrestler Kamaru Usman, and Jamal Hill defeated the same striker wrestler Glover Teixeira in their title bouts. Another champion with an MMA background is Brandon Moreno. This marks the first time in UFC history that 3 fighters with an MMA background are simultaneously champions. In conclusion, an important distinction between basic MMA fighters and hybrids who acquired skills from another discipline during their careers is that hybrids excel in transitional phases and don't lag behind in any particular aspect of MMA. With a good coach and a fighter's intelligence, a hybrid can adapt their game plan to any opponent, as we saw in the third fight between Edwards and Usman, where Leon won the bout with his kick, a tool that Usman, a wrestler with improved boxing skills. However, wrestling remains a more reliable tool for securing victories due to the rules favoring wrestlers. Therefore, we shouldn't expect the same level of dominance from basic MMA fighters as we saw from wrestlers in the late 2000s. But one thing is certain, mixed martial arts has evolved beyond being a showcase of wrestlers versus boxers, and has firmly established itself as a distinct form of a combat sport. And of course, we can't forget such fighters such as Stipe Miocic, Khamzat Chimaev, and other fighters who have left their mark on the world of MMA. Their unique style and impressive performances further highlight the dynamic nature of the sport. To summarize, it is important to remember that the world of mixed martial arts is constantly changing. New talent will continue to emerge, bringing their own mix of skills and strategies to the octagon. So, that's all for today. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of the evolution of MMA. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay tuned for more exciting content.